Commissioner?
Excuse me, Commissioner.
Commissioner, over here, excuse me, Commissioner.
Yes, you, in the incredibly ugly shirt, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Jake Harris, the Daily Prophet. Sir, you've been accused of corruption, multiple counts, and I was wondering, do you have any comment on these most recent allegations?
You'll have to be more specific than that. I've been accused of corruption many, many times.
Yes, sir, that is true. Most recently of pausing the draft to undo your own pick and also undo another manager's pick, which you then selected with the player that you undid. Please comment on that, sir.
I'd be happy to comment on that. Nobody comments on that better, believe me. You see, what had happened was, a manager came to me and said, Please, Commish, I made a mistake, I made a boo-boo, will you please undo my pick? Of course, being the gracious commissioner that I am, I oblige.
Are you referring to the Jameis Winston pick by one Brent Van Conyu?
Well, yes, of course. Who else would I be referring to?
So you're saying that it was Brent who asked you to undo the pick and that you did not do that pick just out of the blue of your own volition?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, sir, and could you also please comment on undoing your own pick?
Yes, I would be happy to comment on that. You see, I was trying to put people into my queue so that I could plan my next upcoming pick. However, the problem was that it was currently my pick. So there was a player whose draft button was unhighlighted. I thought that meant that they were no longer in my queue, and I thought, oh, shoot, I meant to have them in my queue. So I went to put them into my queue, and it turns out that I selected them multiple rounds too early. I have a staunch track record of righting wrongs within the draft. Why, just this last year, the man who stands hypocritically accusing me, one Brent Van Conyu, just listen to the last name, it's all there. He made an incorrect selection in which he begged me to help him out. You see, that year I was drafting on my cell phone, and the ESPN app does not have full commissioner powers on the cell phone. Therefore, I could not pause the draft and undo his selection that time. So instead, what he asked me to do was to swap picks, where I take the player that he wanted because he took a player that I wanted, and we just traded the picks 1-for-1. So I have a track record of not only bailing Brent out of his own terrible decisions, but of also being gracious and generous enough. You see, I, as commissioner, do not believe that a single incorrect pick should tank an entire person's season. Therefore, I gave myself the sort of grace that I would want to receive from my commissioner.
So then if Brent asked you to undo the pick, after you had just undone your own pick and had previously helped him out in other seasons, why did he think that you wouldn't help him out and undo his pick this time?
Only Brent can answer the question as to why Brent is so upset with Brent. But the fact of the matter is, I was asked to undo the pick by Brent. I undid the pick. Brent said, I don't want Jameis Winston. I want Matt Ryan. So when I undid the pick, he had an opportunity to select Matt Ryan, but he did not do that. He had an opportunity to reselect Jameis Winston, but he did not do that. Instead, he selected one Robert Woods. Terrible pick, if you ask me. Horrible pick. Believe me, I know picks. I know all the best picks. It was not Robert Woods.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense as to why you would undo the pick but not select the player for him. He asked you to undo the pick and then told you the player that he wanted. Why did you not pick for him?
Yes, I would be happy to comment on that. You see, as commissioner, I am burdened with great power and responsibility. And with great power and responsibility comes a great burden of being a great leader of lesser men. So when Brent asked me to undo his pick, I was the only person in the league that could undo his pick. So I undid his pick. However, I was not going to make the pick for him, as he then had the perfect capability of making his own selection. So it was no longer my responsibility, but then his responsibility, because he was fully in control of making his own pick. If you can't comprehend as to why that makes sense, think of it this way. If a player then, later in the season, begins to complain about someone on the roster, I don't like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes stinks. He's not getting me any fantasy points. Do I then take it upon myself to then release Patrick Mahomes from his team for him? Because I do have the power to do that. He also has the power to do that, so he could do it for himself. But then does it become my responsibility because he simply has voiced his opinion about what he wants to happen to his team? No, it is his responsibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sir, I've got one last question for you. It really seems like this was a classic case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, I say that's completely fair. You see, Brent said that he was asking me to undo his pick in order to call out the BS, but I have a proven track record of not only helping Brent, but being both fair and equitable to all members in the league, especially myself. Plus, I really wanted Jameis Winston. No further questions. Goodbye.